really just a bit of a whistle-stop tour from me, because you're not here to listen to me, you're here to listen to our speakers. So it's brilliant to see so many people. If you've heard me say this before, I apologise, but the Chamber's really been adapting what it's been doing. I can't believe it's been, well, this is our 4th Wednesday at home, and we started with our first webinar on day 2 of home working, so it has been quite a learning journey, I have to say. I think we're very lucky that we've got such a brilliant community of people that have let us test things, and not everything works smoothly. And actually, what's really fab is that Ernie was our first speaker, and Ernie's joined us again today. So yeah, that was a while ago, Ernie, wasn't it? A whole month nearly.
I need to be retrained.
So we've been doing lots of webinars, and we've now got 4 webinars a week. And we're recording those so that people, if they can't join them during the day or at the time, can then go in and look at them afterwards. So there's been loads of amazing content, loads of really brilliant speakers. So we've also been doing a huge amount of talking to government and continuing to lobby really hard. One of the things that, there are gaps in the financial support. There have been gaps, and we were talking to Fiona Hislop and Scottish Government just over a week or so ago about those gaps, and I'm absolutely delighted that one of the things that I asked for, which was help for self-employed that have fallen through gaps, help for the owner directors and the people that haven't got premises and those kinds of businesses. There's been an announcement this morning which we shared on the Chamber website and on our social media. So more support for businesses that have got more than one premise, and more support for those people falling through the cracks. What's vital is the money for the job retention scheme gets to businesses before the April salary run, and again we're hearing very, very positive noises from government about that. So, we're taking as much feedback as we can from businesses to make sure that's getting fed in. So if you're experiencing anything good or bad, have you got your hands on the grant money? Are you waiting for a business interruption loan scheme application to come through? Please tell us, and we'll make sure that government are hearing that, because they are definitely listening. We launched a Partners for Business programme. Hugely proud of the support we're getting from our Platinum and our Enterprise partners. So they're going to take part in webinars and speak for us, like Grant is today. They are going to write articles for us on our website. So we've got a view from the Bidge piece, which is going to bring you sort of thought leadership pieces. And the most current one is Jen Stewart from Johnson Carmichael. And they are going to mentor businesses through all of this, what we're going through currently, but also in the future. So if you're drowning in demand and don't know how to cope with it, and trying to cope with your business and what it's doing, or you're really, really struggling, or you're somewhere in between and you want a mentor, then please let Ross or anybody in our team know, and we will get you a mentor, somebody that will really just listen and help you through it. So we've been doing a whole bunch of stuff. Our COVID hub is continually being updated, and we've done a bunch of updating of that today, because there are still calls for government support, for PPE. There are new guidance on that job retention scheme, because you've got to be ready when that portal opens on the 20th of April. And there's a whole bunch of prep you can do in advance to get all that data. So yeah, working from home is not an easy life. I don't think any of us have ever worked harder, but so I'm really enjoying the webinar programme. Now, having said all that, I've got another one at 1 o'clock, so I'm going to have to duck out, but I promise to watch the recording. So that's enough from me. Now, Sarah, you can maybe just keep me right, because our original running order was Louise and then Grant. So plan A still? Louise, do you want to unmute?
Yes. Yeah. You just unmute yourself.
Yeah,
then.
And come and let us know how things are.
Yeah.
No, I think as Louise had.
She didn't. Louise, are you able to unmute yourself?
It keeps muting back. So I'm unmuted now.
Yeah.
I had a and then it muted itself. So what I'm saying, either way, first or second, I don't have a preference.
Well, since we've got you and you're unmuted, we should maybe not tempt fate and have you go first, if that's all right, and then you can hand over to Grant, if that's okay.
Okay, that's super. I will do. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation to come and speak to the group here. And I just want to open with a quote. And the quote is, "I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination." You know, and the wind is something that we have no control over. You know, however, how we work the sails certainly is. You know, the sails can be a metaphor for many things: resilience, awareness, thinking, behaviours, and of course, motivation. And I'm sure we've all used the phrase, "I'm just not motivated today." And, you know, I certainly have used that phrase. But before I actually go into, you know, how we actually use motivation, I just wondered, you know, what does that word motivation mean? You know, the word is derived from motive. So motive means, you know, a reason for doing something. You may say it's a get up and go, it's a commitment, it's driving a reason, you know, it's to do with doing something. For me, I use the word purpose. So motivation is having a strong enough purpose to get through the days, certainly when you don't feel like it. You know, at the moment we are in a state of change, we're in a state of flux at times, we're creating it as the new norm. I like to call it the new important. You know, what is important to me today? What is my purpose for today? And the need for purpose is one of the defining characteristics of human beings. You know, human beings crave purpose. And we can certainly suffer serious psychological difficulties when we don't have it. You know, purpose is a fundamental component of fulfilling a life. You know, when we don't have a sense of purpose in our lives, it can make us feel much more vulnerable to boredom, anxiety, and even depression. You know, on the other hand, you know, having that strong sense of purpose, you know, can have a powerful positive effect. You know, when you have a sense of purpose, you get up in the morning and you get yourself going to do whatever it is that you need to do. You know, when you're in purpose, you're engaged with and working towards that purpose. And life does become easier when you have a purpose. It's less complicated and less stressful. You become more what is classed as mono-focused. So it's like an arrow flying towards its target. And your mind feels somehow taut and strong, you know, with less space for negativity to seep in. For me, a powerful example of this comes from Viktor Frankl's famous book, which is called Man's Search for Meaning, in which he describes his experiences in the concentration camps during the Second World War. And Frankl observed that the inmates who were most likely to survive were those who felt that they had a goal or purpose. You know, Frankl himself spent a lot of time trying.
Oh, Louise, I think we've lost you.
Of their future, you know, seeing their loved ones again, or a major task to complete, you know, once they were free. You know, sometimes we can be overwhelmed by the enormity of a situation. You know, where we are right now is quite a big situation that we're actually all in. And sometimes when we're in that situation, what we can get is panic blind, and that we're actually not able to see what we can do to keep ourselves motivated, and also for others to be motivated. And there's also this feeling, or overwhelming feeling, of responsibility to be motivated, to keep motivated, and to be positive, and to keep other people motivated as well. When this happens to me, what I do is, the question I ask myself is, how do you eat an elephant? And it is one bite at a time. So it's breaking it down. And it's the first thought is always start simple. And it doesn't need to be something enormous or grand for motivation to happen. You know, something as simple as just having a favourite quote near you that you can see every day to keep you on track. You know, something that shows your purpose and where you actually want to go. And it might just be for that moment, it might just be for that day, or it could be a lifestyle purpose that you're actually looking for. other thing that I do is I pick my company wisely. And what I mean by that is, you know who will be positive and negative in your life, you know, whether that is in work or in the other part of your lives as well. You know, keeping connections with those who are motivated and positive, as those are the ones who will create, you know, ideas in you and see opportunities, you know, rather than obstacles in the way. And for me, the most important one, certainly for myself, is to know yourself. You know, self-awareness is so important in any aspect of your life. You know, you need to know what works for you and what doesn't. Awareness to what motivates you and what takes it away. You know, notice what is going on around you and inside your head. You know, what's that inner voice actually saying to you? The other thing is, you know, do those thoughts belong to you, or have they been packed out by someone else or a previous experience? And when I think about packed by someone else, for those of you who either have children or have had children and watched Toy Story, you know, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and it's Mr. Potato Head, and everything gets packed inside his head, and some of it might actually not belong to him. I do remember Mrs. Potato Head putting a pair of angry eyes in because she thought you might need them at some point. But do we allow other people to pack that information into our head? Are we using rational and positive thinking or irrational and negative thinking? Because again, that has an impact on how you motivate yourself. And this is not using positive thinking recklessly, you know, as if it's a solution to everything, because it certainly isn't. But positive thinking should be used alongside common sense. You know, that's why it's important to use that rational thinking first. You know, what can we realistically achieve or attain, and then use the positive thinking to reinforce that. What do we choose to react to in situations, circumstances, and people? You know, motivation is made up of a number of different skills and abilities. Self-awareness is one, which is what we're talking here, about knowing yourself. Creating meaning from life lessons, you know, what have we learned from the past and how it's actually brought us here today. And self-efficacy. You know, psychologist Albert Bandura has defined self-efficacy as one's belief in the ability to succeed in specific situations or to accomplish a task. So one's sense of self can play such a major role in how you approach your goals and your tasks and your challenges. You know, understanding what turns the volume up in your motivation and what turns it down. Tracking your progress, you know, keeping a tally of projects and what worked and what didn't helps you keep focused on the purpose. And we have the right purpose, we do keep motivated. Remember what I said at the beginning, you know, a strong purpose keeps us motivated for when we don't feel like doing it. There's an American lady called Mel Robbins, and she has written a program called 54321, Do It Anyway. And she uses this as a frame for when we do not feel motivated about doing something. She uses the phrase 54321, and it actually gets you into the mind frame of actually doing it and getting on with it. And the reason she uses it in reverse is because when we think about when something is about to take off, we count down rather than up. It's a psychological phenomenon that when we are counting down, it makes us do something rather than counting up to something. Helping others can keep us motivated. You know, sharing your ideas and helping others get motivated. Seeing others motivated can also keep us motivated. So for this, you know, you can create a motivational habit. And this can be as simple as, you know, encouraging ideas. You know, if someone is really, really good at creating ideas, you know, embrace those ideas. You know, this is a time of change. You know, thinking out of the box is actually really, really good at the moment. So we should be encouraging those ideas. Think about your regular meetings that you would normally have that are now virtual. For some people, you know, virtual meetings, when it's all in a group, they might become very quiet and quite insular. So it might be about picking up those signals and recognising when one-to-ones are actually needed. You know, letting individuals experiment in their own routine. We're working from home. This is completely different to the way the majority of people actually have worked in the past. It might be something that they're embracing and they're loving. Other people, it might not be. So it's about creating a new routine for them and understanding that it's okay to not get it right in the first instance. Recognising achievements, no matter how small, it might just be, sending someone a thumbs up or whatever it is that is required to recognise those achievements. And appreciate expertise. There is expertise out there, and it's about recognising that in your team and maybe using that in a different way than you would normally. And obviously all of these examples can work for you as an individual as well. So some of the things that we've done recently in Blackadder's is we did a Catch-Up Friday. So Catch-Up Friday is where we use a random generator which creates a pairing of individuals within the organisation that wouldn't necessarily either meet up or be together, so they won't be in the same team. And we then say to them that they have to make a time on the Friday to catch up. And that catch up can be about anything. It doesn't need to be specific. We try to say to people to not talk about work and perhaps sort of stay off the subject of COVID-19, because that seems to be the only thing that we can actually talk about at the moment. And it could be something as simple as, did you watch on YouTube or on one of the social media sites, the lady taking the bin out in her wedding dress? Something as simple as that can then actually go on to other conversations. So Catch-Up Friday is one of the things that we've been doing. And then the other thing that we've been doing is Wisdom Wednesday. And Wisdom Wednesday is where we just send out, it's a little quiz that we do. You can do it as part of your team, or you can do it just in pairs, or you can do it for yourself. Where it's just random questions that are being asked. So some of it is general knowledge, some of it is really based around Disney or whatever. And then whoever comes back first with the correct answers wins a virtual prize. So these are just some of the things that we've been using at Blackadder's, and we're constantly looking at ways of how we can actually motivate ourselves and also motivate our teams within that. I just want to go back to the quote that I started with. I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination. It's not how we interact with the wind, it is in how we interact with the wind, that it creates the ability to get to our destination. It is in our awareness of how we use our sails positively that will give us the ability to motivate ourselves and others. And just one last thing, always remember, you can only eat an elephant one bit at a time. Thank you very much, and I'll hand you over to Grant.
Okay, thank you very much, Louise. That was really interesting, and thanks to the Chamber for the opportunity to talk to you today, and thanks very much for coming on the webinar. I'm going to take a slightly different tack from Louise. I'm going to do much more of a case study, if you like, of how we have managed the situation and where we are and what we are doing to try and keep our various internal stakeholders and external stakeholders motivated and happy and alive. And I think it's worth, just at the start, just talking about the context of the college. I'm principal of Dundee and Angus College, by the way, and the college is a big organisation, a big complex organisation. Our turnover is about 40 million, and we've got around about 1,000 staff, and we're also looking after something like 5,500 full-time students and 10 to 12,000 part-time students. So you can imagine when we go into kind of crisis mode, there's a lot of people wondering what's going on, and there's a lot of people that have got a whole lot of different interests that staff need to know if they're going to get paid. People need to know what they're going to be doing next week. Students need to know, are they going to be taught? Are they going to get their certificates? Is it going to help them get onto the next course? Are they going to get into university? A lot of our students are employed. Will they still have jobs within a couple of weeks? So we're dealing with a whole series of expectations and a whole series of questions, and a really strong community of people, all with different questions that they need answers to. So it's quite difficult, as you can imagine, to communicate to them all and to make sure that you can keep all of those people motivated. We've got students in the Glens up in Kirriemuir and Glen Isla. We've got students in Aberdeenshire, students in Stirlingshire, students in Fife. So we're talking about staff and students across a big geographic area, all with their own concerns and all moving into a very, very difficult situation. Now, luckily, I suppose we can reflect on it now and say, luckily, at the end of January, you probably saw the publicity, we suffered a major cyber attack and it took out all of our college systems for a period. And it led us straight into crisis management. You know, over the course of a weekend, we had all of our senior staff in all weekend planning for how we could actually run a college without any of our key systems, without a finance system, without a student record system. It was just unbelievable, the rebuilding process that we had to achieve over a weekend. But what it did do is it meant that we went into crisis management very quickly. We developed very quickly a business continuity team. And we very quickly developed a whole series of communication protocols. And those protocols were almost all based on Microsoft Teams. You know, and so we very quickly rolled Teams out across the college. A lot of people were already using it, but we decided it would be the main engine of communication and we wanted everyone to use it. So all the academic departments moved into management through Microsoft Teams. All the staff gave phone numbers in so they could all be joined into Microsoft Teams. We also have to deal with very, very strong trade unions. Some of the trade unions objected to the fact that staff were giving their phone numbers into the college, their private phone numbers, so they could connect to Teams, but they accepted that for the reasons of crisis management, that made sense. So we were able to communicate with the staff very effectively. With students, we depended on the staff then communicating with their students. So they all had to set up Teams sites for all of their individual courses and all of their individual students. So we had that mechanism already in place before we went into lockdown. So the good side of the cyber attack is that we at least had experience of running ourselves remotely and trying to make sure that we could develop a college that could run remotely. We thought that would only be for a very, very short time. However, it turned out to be for a much longer time. What we realised very early on is that clarity is the key. Simple messages repeated, very clear plans, and offering staff, picking up on Louise's point, purpose. This is the purpose in your life just now. This is the job you have to do. Now, when we went into the lockdown, obviously it becomes a much major exercise. We have absolutely no idea when this is going to end. We know that we've got to try and get students through their qualifications. We've got to try and keep all our staff going. We found very quickly that almost all of our staff could work from home, and we had some time to set that up. There are some people, obviously, there are people that are ground staff, there are kitchen assistants and people like that who can't really work from home, but we've tried to help them develop into volunteers, and a number of them are volunteering hubs, a number of them are doing volunteer driving, and a number of them are helping with the overall effort in the city. So we tried to help give them that purpose. I'm going to take you through week by week. We're heading into kind of week 4 soon. Some of the stuff that we've actually done to make sure that we've kept the communication going and we've kept the motivation going. We were launching a new staff portal anyway, but the new staff portal became the absolute point of communication. Within the portal, there was a remote working hub and a whole set of FAQs available 24/7 for anyone to get into. We had welcome at the virtual college communications out on the first Monday. The message was that we're all in this together. We were signposting where information was available, where resources were information, where there was support, and where there was answers to questions. We decided that all news and all info would go out on the portal, but we'd do highlight posts in all staff emails to make sure that everyone was covered and everybody had access to the same information. We developed the remote working hub day by day, and if you go in there now, there's all kinds of information on accessing all kinds of systems from home, training on college systems, signposting health and well-being support and advice, ergonomic assessments of workstations, outline of our expectations, but it's really people-centric. It's clear to people that this is going to be a tough time. There are other concerns and commitments too, but people should do what they can, when they can, if they can. Was the big message. What, when, and if. By week 2, we'd set up a social online community through Yammer, which was much lighter. All staff were registered through their Microsoft accounts, but that was the sharing pictures of your home working location from your walk that day, a quiz, whatever. The whole idea was to try to create that feeling of bumping into people in the corridor, of catching up in the canteen, those kind of cross-college relationships that need to happen within the framework, and try to do that within the setup of online delivery. The week 2 message went out from the whole senior leadership team, encouraging people to enjoy their leave over April. When the holiday comes, take your holiday. Make sure that you relax. Make sure that you can recover as much as you can, because you are going to need all your energy for going back into the whole process of trying to get students resulted over this next period. Now, what we anticipate as we go into next week and into the students returning, that the pressure on everyone is going to mount up enormously. A whole lot of work has been done with the Scottish Qualifications Authority, with all our different managing agents for all the different qualifications that we work. Every student, all the thousands of them, are going to come back saying, what's going to happen to me? How do I get through this qualification? We know that SQA have said that they are relaxing. There will be no exams. They are relaxing their verification regime. They want us to use the evidence that we have from students plus our professional knowledge of their performance to grade the students this year. But that will still, some students will have a lot of material that they've developed. Some students will not have a lot of material. The questions that are going to be asked by staff and the questions that are going to be asked by students are going to be enormous. And when you think about motivation and purpose, our strapline as a college is more successful students. We are all about developing more and more successful students every year, and we examine our systems, we examine the way that we teach, we examine all the processes around it to make sure that we can improve the numbers of students that are being successful and the levels of success that they're reaching. Now, we're going to go through the next few weeks with students in a completely different world. They are not going to be in college trying to finish assessments. They're going to be trying to do it remotely and online. We're going to have all kinds of questions from parents, all kinds of questions from students. We're going to be grading those students. Those students will be contesting those grades, I'm sure, in some cases, delighted with their grades in other cases, but we're going to have that conversation going on all the time. So we're having to communicate with our staff exactly what the processes are going to be, exactly what the systems will be to make decisions, exactly how we'll report those decisions, exactly how we'll verify them, and exactly how we'll get that certification done. And at the same time, we're preparing for next year. So we're trying to recruit another 5,500 students to come in August, September. If we're going to start in August, September, nobody really knows at the moment. All of that process will continue. And at the moment, we can see that the applications are going to be down. Hardly surprising. I think a lot of people, it will not be their first thoughts at the moment that they ought to be applying. But there may well be a rush later on when people do realise that they have nothing to do come September, October, so they better start applying for college, and we'll probably see that go up. So what we're going to concentrate on, because we know it's going to be such a stressful period, is that whole idea of checking in with staff. We're going to do an anonymous survey. We're going to ask them how they're coping. We're going to focus on well-being, support with signposting and advice, a regular programme, a training, CPD, social fun activities, so that we can keep connected with everybody as it moves on. Because it is not going to be easy. It's going to be incredibly stressful for everyone trying to get through this next period. It's possibly the most stressful that any of us will ever experience. I'm actually retiring at the end of June, and I was expecting my feet up on the table by this point, thinking, hey, let's cruise to the summer and actually escape somewhere. But no. Talk about a cyber attack and then COVID-19. We've been in emergency mode since the turn of the year. And it's going to be an interesting period as we get through between now and the end of June. So the key lessons for us in terms of keeping that motivation going and making sure that we can try and keep the organisation running is preparation. Be thinking. We're meeting as a senior management team every morning to talk about what we've got covered, what we haven't got covered, what we ought to be doing, how we need to communicate. So get that preparation right. Make the communication as regular as you can, but not overkill. What are the key messages and what are the simplest format you can use to get those key messages out? Clarity leads to reassurance. When we know, you'll know. And we'll be honest about what we don't know and be very clear to that with staff. We'll tell you what we know, but we'll also tell you what we don't know, and we'll tell you when we hope to find out. Provide that social, the Yammer, WhatsApp, all those other different communication forms, and the work-related communication and spaces online. But at the end of the day, you know, when we're in a time like this, the most important value of all is to be human. You know, we're all affected by this. Staff need to know we're all on the same page. We care about their well-being. We care about the well-being of the students. We need to treat each other like human beings and somehow get through this with as good outcomes as we can possibly get for everybody that we're looking after, both staff and students. And so that, I suppose, is not just our task, everybody's task in the business that they're engaged in for this next period. Okay. Ross, is it over to you?
Thanks very much, Grant. Brilliant, yeah. And same to you, Louise. Thanks for that. Really interesting to hear from both you guys there. And just at this point, I'd just like to see if there's any questions from anybody that's in the chat or that's on the call for either of the speakers. Really, we don't have anything much in the chat. We've got Ross asking if anyone's used Slack as a communication tool. I don't know if you guys, Grant or Louise, if you guys have tried it. I have used it briefly before. It's quite a cool thing, but it never really took off in a previous job. But I'm not sure what you guys' experiences are with it.
My experience is exactly the same as yours, Ross. You know, it was used briefly by a number of departments who thought it was kind of useful, and but it didn't really take off. It didn't really get currency across the organisation in the way that Teams has.
Fine. And yes, I think that is it from the chat. Really, if anyone has a question, feel free just to come on, unmute yourself, and join us.
Ross, it's Sarah. I do actually have a question. I just wasn't quick enough to be able to type it.
Go for it, Sarah.
My question was to Louise and the team catch-ups that you're having on Friday. What platforms are you using for that, and how? I guess how have the team found it?
The platform we used was actually, it's just something that we found online, and it was just a random generator that we used. We just put in all of the names and it just randomly generated pairings for everyone in the organisation, and then we just sent an email out with all the pairings on it, just through an email platform. That was all we did. The feedback has been phenomenal, which I'm quite surprised at, because I would have thought that some of the partners would have been a bit sort of off with it, just because it's not business related, and sometimes the partners in in any organisation can just get that task focused. But they were saying it was actually really nice to just speak to someone as though they were boiling the kettle and standing next to them having a chat. So it was very, very well received, and the feedback that we had was, I mean, a couple of things people had said that it was inspirational, even although it was just quite simple, that it felt quite inspirational for doing it. So it was very, very well received.
Great. And do you have any, I guess, other plans up your sleeve that you're looking to put into the organisation for, continuing that motivation? Because we are on week 4, and I think it's levels have dipped quite a lot across the place, and certainly noticing it externally that people are you've kind of come to that goodness, when is this going to end? So it's trying to kind of boost people back up again to see us through.
One of the things that I've put together is a programme on resilience. So understanding what resilience is, how we can actually use it, how we can recognise when we don't have it, but also helping other people to achieve resilience as well. Because I think at the beginning I did a sort of short piece on resilience, but I think the more that it's going on, the more resilience you actually need, because at the beginning it was all quite frantic in that people were being sent out to work, they were getting their PCs, so there was an element of excitement, even although it wasn't a positive excitement, there was something to do. I think the more and more that it's gone on, and we're looking at, week 4, maybe going into week 5, maybe going into week 6, it's about understanding, don't look too far ahead, because if you look too far ahead, it can feel as though it's never going to end. So that is one of the things that we're actually putting. The other thing that I'm putting together is just little motivational items just sent through your email, just little quips, some little funnies as well, because sometimes it is a case of where humour, you need to lighten what's actually happening in the world, and it's not about lightening what's happening with COVID-19. But just some of the things, for example, there was a woman down, I think it was down in Glasgow, who took her bins out in her wedding dress. That is amusing and it is funny. And I think it's about trying to remain humorous in what is a very difficult situation. I'm also putting a thing together about the new important, because we're talking about the new, everybody's saying the new norm, and I was using it to begin with, and then I began to think, actually, I don't like the new norm, because it's making out as though what we had previously was not right, and parts of it were, parts of it weren't right, but it's actually about looking at what is important to me, what is important to me today, tomorrow, and how do I actually fulfill that important part that I need to do. So it's about some of it is actually about reframing your mind as well. So those are some of the things that we're going to be doing.
Yeah, sounds good. I know your employment team have their dress up catch up on a Friday. They're all in their tuxes and their.
There's lots of things going on in the organisation. Our commercial property team, on a Friday they finish at 4. And what they do is they have, maybe I'm telling tales out of school here, maybe I shouldn't be saying this out loud, but they have their Prosecco afternoon. Prosecco, gin, whatever your flight of fancy is, you could even have your cup of tea if you want. And it's just a way of connecting with each other in a more social, virtual setting. So there's lots of different little pockets going on within the teams in the organisation as well.
Excellent. There's just one question that's just quickly popped up from Fiona at Hotel Indigo. Fiona, do you want to unmute yourself and come in and ask?
Hi everyone. Great to hear the ideas. I love the virtual coffee. I'm certainly going to do that. What my question is, how would you interact with staff who are on furlough to still maintain around the government guidelines, but to ensure they're motivated now, but even more so when they're ready to come back to work? It's maybe a completely different webinar nearer the time. I just thought I would put that question out there.
Sorry, can I just come in? It's just very interesting that you've just asked that question, because we've literally just set up a meeting with some of our team who are on furlough, and we want to have that as a regular thing. So the other thing that we've set up before the video call that we're going to have this afternoon is that we set up a WhatsApp group, so we could share things, and it was nothing.
I think we've maybe lost you, Louise.
Now, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
It did keep saying I've lost connection, but I still kept talking. I do have a tendency to just keep talking. So the things that we're doing is we are using Zoom and Team as a way of connecting with the guys that are not in our department anymore, who are out on furlough. And I know that other departments have done that too. And then the other thing we've got is just a WhatsApp group where we just share pictures with each other and we just check in with each other. And again, that's just with everybody who's on furlough. The other teams are doing that too.
Thank you. An interesting one. I am myself on furlough and keeping motivated for the it's maybe a completely different webinar. webinar when we've come to the end of this and everyone's back. Thank you.
Grant, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add to that. No.
No, we don't have anybody on furlough. It's not an issue with us at the moment. And I don't think it will be. I think we'll continue. I mean, we've helpfully, our funders said that they would continue to fund at the level that they've been funding, so that we can keep the staff going. And we committed very early on that all staff who were contracted with us, and that's even staff who were contracted to work through exam times and all of that, we're going to pay them, because they were contracted to work, and we need to pay them right up to the end of this kind of academic year. Make sure that they're still there. So that's furlough hasn't affected us at all.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I'm conscious that we're getting to the end of the hour, and I'm sure there's a couple of other webinars for people to be joining later on. So just want to thank our two speakers very much for joining us. There was a lot of good kind of takeaways, and it's nice to see what other people are doing. Ourselves as a chamber, we have a morning meeting with the team, run through what we did the day before, what we're doing that day, but also what we did at the weekend, how the family are, what we've got plans for at the weekend, and just kind of keeping that bit normality around things. Really, like you say, you would normally have that conversation at the kettle when you're having your morning cuppa. So that's certainly what we're continuing to do. But yeah, thanks again, speakers. Wonderful to hear from both of you. Thanks very much to everybody for joining us. And if you haven't already been online, jump on and see what the other webinars have got coming up. And yeah, we'll see you in another webinar soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Cheerio.